What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and are you ready to set some intentions this week? We got a pretty light one this week. It's only going to be, we got mercurial action that's going on there, and they're going to be talking with both Big Papa and with Saturn. So, and this all going to be happening on the same day, but I think that this is going to be setting the groundwork for some potentials for some longer term things because we'll get into all of that in a moment. But if you're new here, my name is Justin again, and one of the things that I do in this channel is talk about the celestial news weekly that's going on up in the sky, and I'm going to be going over the week of December 26th through the 1st of January. So look at that, we're already in 2025, so let's get into this thing. Because on Jupiter Day, the 26th of December, at about 2:47 p.m., and that's going to be Pacific time, Mercury is going to be forming an opposition with Big Papa. And this is going to be happening at 13 degrees and 47 minutes. Mercury's in Sagittarius and Jupiter's in Gemini, or retrograde in Gemini. Now, the thing with oppositions can be there can be considered like Saturnian in nature. And one way that I like to think about them, so there's like maybe some obstacles and maybe some restrictions, some things along the way, some things that maybe are needing like a recalibrating or a reassessment in a sense. But I like to think of oppositions too, even thinking about the lunar cycle, for example. You think about when the planets form a conjunction, that is the seeding process. And then when it gets to the opposite end of itself, now it's fully revealed. It's had a time to really kind of gestate and come to manifestation. And so this is like that expectations versus what reality is. And I think with this opposition is you're thinking about Mercury, for example. Well, not for example, the because Mercury is the topic. Mercury is about how we think, how we communicate, but also how we understand things. How we take Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. Is constantly within, can't go outside of 28 degrees of the sun. And so Mercury plays a really vital role of how we take the information that we get from the sun, those divine revelations and inspirations, and acts as a bridge to kind of channel this stuff down to this realm here. Mercury plays a really important role in the chart. And now this Mercury is under looking at how have we expanded and where we may need to contract a little bit. And we'll talk about that more when we get to Saturn. But I think that this opposition is seeing how you've grown. And sometimes growth doesn't always mean positive growth. Maybe there's some negative growth that's going on there too. Maybe there's been, instead of tending to the garden like we could, maybe there have been some weeds that have grown over. And now we're needing to do something about this thing. Or do you want to do something? Maybe you think this is cute. And then no judgment here. You always know you're in a safe space. But this can be a great time for, maybe you said I wanted to do, for example, maybe you wanted to do a workout routine, but it's been, this was like a real classic one, but maybe there's been a lot more pressure at work to do some things, or maybe you've had to keep up with the kids, maybe you've had like family stuff, maybe you had a lot of travel that you needed to do and it's just not quite fit in the schedule. This can be a time to just like, okay, you know what, I clearly see what's been going on. I need to manage my time a little bit differently and rearrange some things. Because one thing that I like about this opposition, even though that can be a tougher aspect, the nice thing is that it's happening where the planets are in each other's signs that they rule. So Jupiter's in the sign that Mercury rules, Gemini, and Mercury's in the sign that Jupiter rules, Sagittarius. So even though they're in signs that they're both technically in detriment in, where they're not functioning well, and Jupiter right now really is in a tougher condition, even for Jupiter being retrograde, but they're able to call on one another. They see each other's struggles and they're able to respond in kind. It may not be exactly how, like, it's like if I'm at your house and you're at my house and I'm trying to explain to you how to turn on the heat in the house. Like it may not be perfect, but it'll get done. And so I think that this opposition can be something where in a short term type of things, just kind of see where things have gotten and where the growth has happened and where maybe we've maybe spread ourselves too thin and maybe need a little bit of focus, or maybe you're needing to find something else that kind of line. Maybe you need to expand yourself a little bit more, maybe go out and find some different resources. So apply it to your situation, of course. Now, the reason I talk about some kind of longer term things is when we get Saturn in the mix, because literally later this day, at about 11:28 p.m., Mercury's going to form a square with Saturn. And this is going to happen at 14 degrees and 11 minutes. Mercury's still in Sag, and Saturn is in Pisces. Now, this all, I think, ties in together as well, or at least you can apply it to the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction that happened back in 2020. And so I'd say look at in your chart. I want to say this happened when they were in Capricorn, if I'm remembering correctly. But look at where that conjunction happened in your chart about 5 years ago, because Jupiter and Saturn, this is the second time that Mercury has been talking with both Jupiter and I think with Saturn as well. And we just got done with the second square of Jupiter and Saturn, and they're going to have one more in 2025. And Jupiter and Saturn, those conjunctions happen every 20 years. So when they happen, they're a big deal. When things are happening, or when those transits are happening. It's different than when you have like a Mercury transit or even like a Venus transit, a Sun transit. Those can kind of almost feel like they come and go. But these ones have some oomph. And one thing I could see coming up with that square, with that Saturn in Pisces, I could one way see this as a feeling that maybe the time is moving, like oh, I need to get some things done. Maybe there's some anxieties that are going around. Maybe you feel, and it's not to bring on a sense of fear, but it's like to maybe those anxieties happen to come up into the mix, and there may be something where it's like I need to be doing more of this, for example. Man, I really need to get back on track of that, and just kind of feeling these things and trying to not get lost in the feeling, to not let all of the things become so overwhelming that it paralyzes you. It's meant to be, I think this opposition in this square that's kind of happening here is because Saturn is the referee. Think about this too. I should have pulled up a chart for this. But Saturn, this is all mutable energy that's going on here as well, keep in mind. And so there's a lot of changes that are going on. The mutable signs take the energy that the cardinal started and they evolve it into the next thing. And so now that we're up, we're getting this like second Jupiter and Saturn or square that's happening. How have you been expanding and been working with that growth? And where do you see yourself going in the next 12, but not even 20 years? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Where do you want to correct, to get yourself where you feel like you're in your divine, and I don't want to say just like divine will, and not to just make it all mystical, but more so feel like you're in your calling, feel like you're on your path, feel like you're getting, like you're checking off the list, you're setting your goal, you're meeting your goals as well. And it's just like what actions, I think that's what that square is, because the squares can be Martian in nature. So they're bringing about this sense of maybe some tension, maybe some friction, some frustrations, but they're a call to combat, a call to take action. And when I say combat, I more so mean like to tackle life and to go out there and to go seize the day. And I feel like, especially with this Sag energy, that Mercury and Sag can get overly excited and maybe set the goals, maybe the bar a little too high. Because I will say Sagittarius as an energy, just being Jupiter ruled, can have a tendency to exaggerate a little bit. And I don't think it's and I don't talk about, I'm just talking in general. As an energy, there could be an over exaggeration with that heat and what you're able to meet yourself with. So just again, I think this is a great, just a kind of like great check-in point in life, to have one of those sort of serious sit-downs with yourself. It's not meant to be like a critical thing. It's just like okay, this is where I'm feeling really good in life, and this is where I'm wanting to improve in. And again, if you want to know more specifically where this is happening for you, look in your chart, see where you have Sagittarius, Pisces, and Gemini, and where this is going. If you're a Leo rising like myself, for example, this is all taking place in we got our fifth house of creativity for Mercury, the house of hopes, dreams, wishes with Jupiter, and then Saturn is in the house of shared resources. So how do you want to take your creative endeavors forward, for example, and who do you need to talk with, and who do you need to get in touch with, and what energies, resources do you need to exchange to make those things happen? That could be just one of many things that you could do. Maybe if you have a child, maybe you're wanting them to get involved in a club, for example, and it's just like, who do I need to get in touch with to be, those are just some ways that it doesn't have to be something where it's like overly complicated or anything. You can work very practically with these things and find some ways to make astrology very constructive for you. And if that's something that you wanted to look a little bit more into, get a little bit more personal with these charts and the transits that are going on, working with your solar return, maybe you have a Saturn return coming up, Jupiter return. I actually got a Jupiter return coming up 2026. Looking forward to that. My last Jupiter return was pretty dope. But if that's something that you're wanting to work with as well, down in the description box are a link for all the services that I provide. So definitely avail yourself that if that resonates with you. And also down in the description box, if you want to keep up with the lunar shenanigans, on my other channel, The Chariot and Friends, I talk about it through the lens of just Cancer, but it's meant for everybody. Everyone can work with the moon, but it is Cancer being ruled by the moon, and my son's in Cancer. Just so how the moon. Whatever, I had some clever for that. But go over there and see that, where I have a lot more clever things to say. But until next time, keep raising that vibration and that consciousness through the roof. Actually, got sidebar. I don't know if I mentioned this, but when I'm recording this, my card of the day was for the Wheel of Fortune was a Jupiter energy. So I was just like, we got a lot to talk about today. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you. Oh, also, before I do that too, happy holidays for all the holidays that are going on here, and I will see you in the new calendar year. And later.